Hello guys, welcome to my ProIndieDev presentation. Let's get started. Our topic of course is what you can see called Tiny Scope. Has big effects. Fighting the beast of a giant budget. The beast that keeps raging from within to make you make the biggest game possible. The blockbuster. We're going to dismantle that right here, right now. Okay, let's begin. There's a cold hard truth. That cold hard truth is that most games that you play now are just not as innovative as you may hype them to be, or the game company may hype them to be. But this topic is not about innovation. It is not about gimmicks. It is simply about scope. And the main thing that drives scope more than any other thing within humanity is simply cold hard cash money. Now, as any developer, you just have to understand that your funding is not like the big boys. You cannot make Grand Theft Auto 5 or 6 for that matter on your own. The scope and the budget is just too huge. So, if you are planning on making Grand Theft Auto 5 or 6 or something even inspired by that, this talk most likely is not for you, because you're just going to ignore it all in a way. But if you are not making something that huge, this talk is definitely for you. So let's dive in deeper. Now I'm going to start you off with this thing called a SWOT analysis. Next slide. Yep, go SWOT yourself. So SWOT analysis is a business term. It's an acronym basically, with S meaning strength, W weakness, O opportunity, and T is threats. This nice little chart I got from the internet with the credits in there has two categories of those things. One is internal and one is external. The internal things are the things that you yourself have to go through. The external things are what other people, companies, or even patents have to say about what you're doing. So, to look at your strengths and weaknesses is quite crucial, but there's also other things beyond that, which is our opportunities and things that can threaten you before you even release your stuff. So, let's go over those things. Your strength. It could be something as simple as cross-platform, or something as unknown as fully optimized for mobile devices. These things could be strengths. But what could be your weaknesses? Could it be that you have outdated code? Could it be that you just have a small user base? Could it be as closed source even? There's tons of weaknesses that could occur from a game engine project. One huge weakness is lack of community. Is lack of games being made with it. It's also a huge weakness is if your engine just crashes all the time and is unusable and unstable. So take that in mind before you start. The weaknesses can go on and on, my friend, but it's up to you to realize and search out all the weaknesses that you have. Some of these weaknesses could become strengths. Some of these strengths can also become weaknesses. It always depends on the perspective and also your good old-fashioned marketing edge. Okay, so next we have opportunities. Have you ever been on Reddit or some other site and see a bunch of people just complaining about a different thing, and you're like, oh wow, maybe I could help this person. Oh wow, maybe this is actually an opportunity for me to shine. Or even if there's competitions, jams, etc., these are all cool opportunities for you to showcase your engine. It's also maybe get some new clients. So look for every opportunity that you can find available to you. Even if there's potential contracts, those can be seen as opportunities to make your engine shine. The last one, of course, is threats. Things that can threaten your engine is, of course, bugs and crashes, but also other engines that's available. Some of those engines may have patches that make your engine pretty much weaker or less of a good selling point. Always be aware of what other engines are doing, because to go around and your head in the sand just means that you are not looking for any way to be better. Now, your engine may not need to even care about other engines, because it could be an in-house engine. It could just survive on its own. But just know this: more and more features by other people may be requested based on what other people are doing. And it's up to you to know what you should or should not add in your engine. Some engines go through things called feature freezes. This is when your engine just suddenly just not process new features until certain things are done. Sometimes you have to do that in order to make sure you survive through the stress in a huge amount of things people may want, especially if you're a small team or even just yourself. I sometimes myself even post acid freeze and feature freezes on my Discord and etc. because people sometimes demand things I know I cannot deliver on in a timely manner. You will have to too eventually. And that is the glorious way to limit your scope. Let's move on. Now, for your game or game engine, start asking yourself these sort of questions. What graphics do you need? Particles? Can you even use someone else's engine? You may have to talk yourself off the ledge if other engines can possibly do what you already want. So, if we're making a stickman game, standard thing a lot of people do, especially when they're young, do we need to make our own CryEngine? Do we need to make our own Construct even, or whatever, if these other engines may be able to help us? So, take a deep breath and ask yourself, should I stay the course? If you say so, then stay the course. If you do not say so, half of this talk will not be relevant, and you can stay alone because limiting scope is always important. But you do not have to make your engine if you have not already started. So let's assume you're making your own engine, or have already made your own engine. You should know about the tech involved in this process. Is it going to be 3D, 2D, even 4D, AR, or VR supported? The licensing, is it going to be MIT license, public domain, GPL3 license? Is it going to be closed source? Or whatever, you get to pick this. But when it comes to scope, what's even more important than all these questions essentially is, what is your timeline? How much time are you allocating yourself in a very honest manner to finish your product? If you give a low timeline, expect to just be wrong. If you give one that's far away, expect to fight tooth and nail to make sure you either make that timeline or either beat it. There's shame, I will say, in missing a deadline. I know a lot of people say avoid shame, but let's be honest. When you miss a deadline, as a developer, you most likely will feel shame. So, by limiting your scope and making sure your project is as clean and small as possible and usable, you are helping yourself from missing deadline after deadline after deadline after deadline. All these things is what I am far too well versed in. Okay, now what's up next is we have engines and tech. So every good engine usually runs on one of these software: Vulkan, SDL, OpenGL, DirectX, SFML. It's up to you to research which one you want to use. Also forget WebGL for you HTML5 people, and OpenGLES is just a subset of OpenGL. But if there's another one hiding, I would love for anyone to let me know in the Q&A later. But yes, pick your tools. Make sure you pick the best tools possible for you. Okay, up next we have physics. I myself just use a custom engine, Other people may use bullet physics or POX 2D or even something else. But just ask yourself, what sort of physics do you need? Or even if your game needs physics. I don't know what sort of physics engines a lot of these mastery games are using, but I bet they're pretty bare bones. So, before you go out looking up all this documentation for one physics engine, make sure that you need it, and you desperately need it. Okay, getting help. Let's start off with this anonymous quote. I just love sometimes saying random things and attaching the word anonymous to it. You know who else is guilty of that? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But this quote is very important because you need to know that you are not going to be able to make everything perfect and flawless on your own. But you're some kind of genius virtuoso. But as Tim McGraw would say, try to be humble and kind. As other people will say, humility is the key to success. So, hopefully you have some tech friends. Hopefully you have a Discord server. Hopefully you're part of any tech forums or chats and etc. to hopefully get advice by other people. Believe it or not, someone's better than math than you. Someone's better at design than you. Someone's better at overall graphics than you. Please seek out help when you're making an engine. I have a good friend, there's a couple other good friends I go to and lean on a lot, maybe too much, for advice for making things. But without them, I basically would just be Vaporware. So just take note of that, please. So, even if you're already making your engine or haven't even made your engine, just know that sometimes you can lower your scope by just modifying some other engine, adding extensions. If you cannot, beyond those means, adjust another engine or feel the engine is doing what you want, then I will say go ahead and try to make your own engine. But be warned, it will take years. Most likely at least 2 years. Ask yourself, are you able to sacrifice that much time making an engine for a game or games that may not even be successful? Or do you just want to learn? Or do you just want to make a free-to-play, pay-to-win game? Whatever your decision is, just know that game needs to be small. Your pixel art game most likely would not need voice acting. Your shooter game most likely may not need AI that connects to the cloud. Your RPG may not even need online features. Your racer game may get by with a little bit of bad AI. Whatever the thing is that you are so craving for your game to be so revolutionary, ask yourself, is there something else you can cut out? Is it a way to make it work without going through months of hassle? Will the gameplay change too much? If you get beta tested, if you get a few alpha testers even, try to run these things through them. Sometimes you have to have some things, but some things you have to be comfortable with removing. And that's what this whole thing is about. And make your engine find things that you can nitpick and take away, because some of those things don't belong. It's just honestly the truth. Okay, we're getting towards the end of this presentation. Some of you guys ever went to a good old Southern Baptist church or whatever church? Sometimes the pastor will say that, and you be like, okay, this must mean another 3 hours left. But I am dead serious. We're almost done with this presentation. For a scope, just remember, time is one of the most valuable resources you have. So, when estimating, always tell yourself it's going to take double the amount of time you think. I took months on making a layer system. I took weeks on making a particle system. Every little thing you think is going to take a shorter time, it's going to take way longer. Okay, next slide. So, the key points for this is pretty humbling, but be a nihilist. Just be pessimistic about your talent. Be pessimistic about others. This isn't about trust or faith in people. It's about honesty and also giving them even more wiggle room. Because no one wants to deal with a boss or coworker even, or someone else in their startup always demanding things with ridiculous time to complete. Just to be honest, we are people and full with imperfections. So just know those imperfections will take way longer than you thought it would originally. But there's a bright side to this. When you give yourself more reasonable expectations, you most likely are going to be filled with less stress, and less anxiety, and less pain and hurt. Less shame if you miss a deadline. Because you try your best, you gave a reasonable deadline, you made sure that your task was slim and easy and conquerable. But if you've been too overly ambitious and failed, it's because you basically ignored the key of making your thing as smooth and slim as possible, and making sure you overestimate how long it takes. Think like a contractor. Now, to learn beyond this PowerPoint, presentation, look at some postmortems. There's so many other people with so many stories of them saying how they failed, how they succeeded, tricks even, of how they even made the GPU or CPU do strange things just for one feature. Look up these cool things. I myself find unique, cool, awesome value in these postmortems. They're all over things like Gamma Sutra and NDDB. Check them out. Okay, so we talked about scope, we talked about timelines, but we didn't talk about releasing, aka shipping. No matter what, release your game, release your engine, no matter what state it is. And if you get past too much of a deadline, if you are too pushed back, and your thing is in early access, a beta, release that beta, maybe with patch notes, even warning people about a potential crash. But make sure you release, because you don't want to be called vaporware. So, speaking of vaporware, do not become vaporware. There are so many project graveyards out there. There's so many portfolios filled with so much things. This is from AAA studios to indie studios to just, people experimenting. But the more things you don't release, the more natural it's going to come to not release things. And eventually, you may not ever release a full blown out product. So make sure you release something. Don't just be the person posting screenshots during E3 or Screenshot Saturday or videos, etc. Make sure you eventually let someone else from any country in the world be able to download your stuff. Okay, not any country, because I don't know if North Korea even plays video games. But you gotta get the point. So enough of those politics. Release your stuff and do not become vaporware. I know the temptation to make sure it's perfect is there, but you would not be perfect. I assure you, you would not taste perfection ever. So, although that's a pretty depressing statement, us humans are imperfect. And even computers are imperfect. They still crash. No matter how much decades and iterations they have gone through, they're still computing zeros and ones. They're still dealing with electricity. No matter how micro or nano the technology is, it has evolved. And you cannot expect your first win to be nanotechnology. You have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere with early access. There's itch.io and other things. So look that up. So I'm not going to keep on stressing this, but get feedback. The one way to get feedback is posting in so many forums, NDDB, Gamma Sutra, itch.io, etc., etc. Steam Early Access. Get feedback. Post, tweet, live stream, Twitch, Mixer, YouTube. There's so many places you can get feedback from. Enter game jams. There's the weekly game jam. There's daily game jams. There's 1 hour game jams, 1 game a month, etc., etc. And whenever you talk about your engine, just know people are going to compare it to Unity no matter what. So just be ready for that. And with that, that concludes our presentation on limiting your scope and, the basics for making a game engine and the things I dealt with. There's so much more, but I'll leave it for the Q&A because I want to keep this down to about 20 minutes. So thank you and have a good day.